drawn you all into my home this evening here at Medicine's Healing Sanctuary. Welcome to my home. I'm happy to be having a moment to communicate with you all tonight. I have been busy having an awesome summer with my daughter in connecting with her and not on media as much, taking some time to disconnect from the collective chaos, as it were, and dive deeper into the individual expression of my own soul with myself and my family. But I have so much really that I want to communicate that I think is essential at this time. So I'm really happy to spend a few moments with you, and I would encourage you to write questions and let me know if you're listening. Tonight, I'd like to talk about the coming 4th of July and how important it is to create ritual around the symbol of the American flag and the symbol of the eagle and the feeling that you have when you think of and feel into what it means to say one nation under God. And that there's probably nothing more important. I want to communicate that there's probably nothing more important than to prepare for the 4th of July in a way that creates a strength of ritual for seeing the nation and its symbols within yourself, in your home. You don't need to go anywhere and do anything to celebrate this outwardly, like with a group of people or in the streets with fireworks, because it's really just needs to happen in your own heart. So if you want to galvanize your family around something, that would be a wonderful idea. But you don't need to go out and have it be a big display. It just needs to happen really here inside. So before I talk about that and why that's so important, I'd like to just take a moment to sing and call in the spirits. Oh, hey, 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 ah, hey, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, I pray to the Great Spirit, that effervescent one that is always listening, the consciousness that lives within the lattice of the light that is always just out of sight, where what is not yet in the field of form is just outside of what we can see and perceive. I pray that within the heart of every human in this moment, that there is a quickening that comes, that brings a feeling of joy for no reason, just a feeling, a sensation that is a memory and also is a compass to a place that we've lost, but also has never lost us and has been seeking to guide us, to helping us understand what is real. May humanity discover now what is real and discern what reality is from reflection, so that we may come to touch that essence within ourselves and know ourselves as whole and what is holy within us. And from that holiness, see one another differently, not as an attack, but as a kindred spirit that has also been a bit lost and a bit confused as to why there has been so much suffering. For it is when we learn that it is not due to another's fault that we experience our own suffering, but rather it is due to not understanding who we are and how suffering emerges in our field of reality. It's time for us to take our place as conscious creators of this space. And I pray that nothing gets in the way of this joyful evolution of humanity. And so it is, and so let it be a brave conversation this evening. So, as it turns out, what is real is the awareness that resides within each human. What is not real are the concepts and the what you could call the shadows and the clouds that roll across the mind. These are not real. They are reflections of perceptions that we observe. The capacity to observe is the activity of what is alive. Some days ago, I posted a picture of one of the flags that are on the lawns these days. They are pretty flags. I love the rainbows. They say, usually, this sort of list of things. I'll write it down in the little comments. They say, kindness is everything. They say love is love. Love is love. They say Black Lives Matters. Black Lives Matter. They say science is real. They say all humans are legal. And sometimes they say a couple other things, but not always. One of them I've been noticing is water is life. Okay, so that is what the signs are saying. And what I'm addressing right now for a moment is the science is real part. So science is if you just take it as a whole body of work and look at it as one book that's filled with different divisions of what we would call, or what we would name the sciences, whether they be physical or biological or energetic, right? Biology, chemistry, physiology, physics. So whatever it is in the book, it has come through observation and then quantified, written down, and compared with other data. I'm talking in a very simplistic way to make it simple to understand what I'm talking about. So what is real in the process of the accumulation of this like book of reflection and data is the active perception that is happening in the human to collect the data. The awareness and the presence and the perception and even the discernment of what to capture or what seems significant. This is what's real. And what also is real is the actual phenomena while it is happening, while it is occurring. But while the phenomena is occurring, there is a lot of forces and you could say forces and factors that are happening that are not actually being perceived in the observation. So the perception is often focused on specific objectives, right? So you could connect this to the idea that science is looking at repeatable processes that can be proven to be repeatable, and show pattern, right? I mean, one of the fundamental ideas behind science is that if you can repeat something over and over, that is demonstrating that you can say that you can show cause or effect, or that you can know something about it. Right? So even in that case, when you when science is at its best and you can show repeatable processes, it is still not looking at the whole of what is happening. For example, if something is being looked at and it is dead, say being dissected, there are markers and information that you can get and glean from something that's dead, but you can't find the full story from that, because part of what contributed to the system is no longer present in the system, right? It's no longer living. So that's just one example. If you look at, in physics, say astronomy, if you look at the variance or forces between two solar bodies, you're trying to understand, let's say, how Mercury and Mars relate to one another somehow. You could look at the forces of those two planets and you could try to evaluate them. But if you're not looking at also all the other surrounding planets and things that you can't even see, like, I don't know, maybe there's black holes or the sun or the many moons on Jupiter, which are also affecting Mars or Mercury, you're able to discern certain patterns that may show themselves as repeatable and predictable within a variance, right? Within a variance. But that still doesn't tell you the whole of how the forces of those planets are operating, just for an example. Because all science has to freeze other things in order to look at certain other things. And when you do that, you take something out of its full context. So science is always limited. Even if you're using the most super computers, it's always going to be limited to the data that is available. And there's always going to be data or information that is outside of that information. And one of the things that's always going to be missing from science that you can never capture is the soul that stands behind the form and the spirit that is moving through the systems and the forms. This can't be captured by outward observation or quantified information. You can only connect with it through feeling and through the connection of the living systems, one living system to another living system, having a shared awareness, sharing a field of consciousness, which allows a shared perception to occur between beings that are perceiving something, which could be each other. And that could be a person perceiving the stars, a star. Maybe there is an unquantifiable illumination or awareness that transpires. Or maybe there is between, let's say, a plant and a scientist who might be looking at it. You could call the scientist, you could call the people who are wise men and women of the world scientists, because they are able to communicate with the plants themselves, to actually feel and conceive and connect with the spirit and the consciousness It stands behind form. Science is not real because it is a collection of reflection and observation of that which is real, but it itself is the mind in mass. It's not real. It is an attempt to understand reality. And in our science, in our world right now, we are making a religion out of it. We've made a religion out of this reflection. And we're doing this because we want to feel like we know more about life, and life is less of a mystery. Because we want to have control or predictability so that we won't feel afraid of what's going to happen that is unknown, that might come out of the blue, that might cause our loved ones to suffer or to no longer be here. And we have in our collective genetic information fear from being in situations of peril and suffering and hunger and being at the whims of nature and one another. And we want to have control. I'm not saying that you want to have control, but in a very real way, why I say in a very real way, because reality is reflecting to us as a whole that there is enough desire within each human for the collective experience that we're having to galvanize itself around the goal of control. So let's come back for a moment to the phrase again of science is real. Science is religion. There's not just one text, there's not just one Bible, okay? But we are interacting with what we call science as if it is coming from sources that have so much authority over us that we're giving our agreement to this authority to let it determine how we are interacting with one another and with ourselves and with the world. The challenge with religion is that religion comes from direct revelation, spiritual perception that comes through different human form. And the individuals who wrote the scriptures, both of the Christian tradition and all other traditions, including all indigenous cultures, all indigenous cultures. I feel very confident making this statement. All religions or ideologies or dogmas that are of a spiritual nature originate through individuals who have received personal revelation. Personal revelation is meant to be personal. And it is also meant to give each individual it connects and speaks to them on a very personal level for where their journey is at the moment, for how they are walking their path of coming back into full connection, understanding spirit and their own highest self, and also the mysteries of the universe. But it comes in very personal. So you can understand the whole, but through your own personal lens. There's a lot of talk right now about, for example, let me just give you some concrete like metaphor or understanding. There's a lot of talk right now about racism, and how there's this notion that, for example, if you're white, you cannot not be a racist because in your makeup, you cannot perceive your own unconscious racist tendencies because you don't have you can't have awareness of it because you've been indoctrinated into it, and it's like the water that you're swimming in, and you can't perceive that water. It's like a fish that doesn't know it's in water. It's just like what you're swimming in, and so you can't discern it, and so you just are it. That's one way to explain that thought, how that thought is, where that thought comes from. The thing with revelation is that when it comes in, it's always going through the ego and through the filter of the person's mind that it's coming through. So it never really comes in without a filter, right? So that's what this idea of racism, that you cannot not have it. It's also like saying that, well, you might love all people, but your love is going to be coming through a filter that you can't see that you have. And even if you're aware that you have it, you're not going to be able to not operate from it, because there's going to be more that you're not aware of. With racism, this is not an accurate it's not an accurate perception of what racism is. What that is describing actually would be prejudice, that you would have unconscious prejudices that would come up. And that in that racism, the actual definition of racism is that you have a conscious intention to perceive that somebody should have something or not have something based upon the color of their skin. Racism is a conscious, willful choice of the heart. I'm not telling you that some people might not have that unconsciously, but what I'm telling you is that the definition of racism is not what people are saying or are talking about. They're talking about unconscious bias, which is prejudice. And I'm also talking about that with regard to revelation. Except perhaps the strongest avatars of our history, the Christ, Buddha, maybe the Dalai Lama. I'm not sure, but except for the most clearest of filters, or clearest of consciousnesses, and even with Christ and Buddha, I'm pretty sure they had their own filters. Because if you are given a body and you're given a journey in a body, you're going through experiences that are giving you woes and wins, sufferings and successes. So you don't get out without being touched by life. You don't get out by being touched by life. Thank you, James. Thank you, Allison. It's nice to hear your thoughts. Please ask questions if you have any questions, friends. So, the reason why we have different dogmas, different religions, is because the direct revelation of spirit came in through different people's minds. It's really simple. It all got filtered in through different people's minds. And so what they were experiencing at the time and what spirit was trying to show them at the time for their country, for their people, for their environment was very unique to what they needed. So the communication was very unique to those certain circumstances. And the practices that came to them, that emerged, were very unique to what they individually needed. But what happened, and what can happen, and I know it's because it's happened to me directly as somebody who receives revelation like on a moment-to-moment basis, is that you can think that the revelation that you're getting is meant for everybody, right? That the revelation you're getting is meant for everybody else to follow. Oftentimes, this has come from feeling amazing and wanting everybody else to find that feeling of wondrousness as well, or love, or peace, or lack of suffering, whatever it is. But ultimately, we're all on the same journey, and at the same time, we're all on our own path. So the path that one travels might be, it's worth sharing, because somebody else might find some of themselves in it, and it might help them along their path. It might be have a magnetic register or a hit for insight, or assist somebody along their path, because revelation is very personal, and also it is each path is very very unique, and also we're all going through the same, you could say, the same gates of learning. the same markers of understanding on our way to discovering how to surrender our will to the will of our higher self, which is God, so that we can be conscious creators of our world instead of creating with an unconsciousness and not realizing that we are at the place of cause. You might want to rewind that one later and listen to it again. It's very significant at this time. So wars. We understand that for thousands of years we've had religious wars where people are fighting over whose version of heaven or how to get there is the right, real one, right? What God is. And we understand that different cultures have been forced to relinquish their connections with their stories from their elders, and their revelation and their ritual, and take up others because these stories have been used to determine behavior. They have been raised up as the thing that is the way that people need to behave in order to be accepted into the community and into the culture. Right? Even now, what comes to my mind is how if people are still so very judgmental around religion, right? How many people know people or have experienced separation and rejection within your family or friend structures because you don't believe in the same path and dogma and ritual and set of beliefs around what heaven is and how you get there, or what hell is and how you get there or you don't get there. There's so much here. And in all of the history of Christianity and Muslim cultures and Jewish cultures, I can't say so much about the indigenous, more earth-based cultures, but other religious revelation that rose up to the level of scripture and dogma and requirement is this idea that in order to connect with your soul or your spirit, you have to go outside of yourself to someone else that's going to interpret for you your path, what's right, what to make, how to make sense of your own personal wrongs and rights. And by doing that, we've been asked by these power structures to let go of our personal empowerment. So instead of each person being empowered to connect with their own path through their own direct revelation, because we all have a soul, we all have spirit, and we all have the capacity to develop the heart's capacity to become a sensorial apparatus. Actually, the whole body becomes an instrument of perception. We've been asked to let go of this in exchange for somebody else telling us who we are and what to make of our purpose. Right? At this time on the planet, there's been a shift away of this spiritual the spiritual, or you could say the religiosity of the world is not holding such a tight grip as it has in the past. I'm not saying that there's not still religious wars going on, but within the Western world, it's not as, let's just say, like the, the straight out religious war is not happening as much as it has in the past. And in America, religion, is not as, I don't know if this is statistically true, but this is just my feeling. I don't know that people go to church with the same amount of confidence and consistency as they used to. Okay, so there's maybe like less of a belief in general in religion, although there may still be a connection to spirituality. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's still the same, or maybe it's grown, like a fanatical connection to religion in ways that I'm not aware of. But in my own circle of connection to friends and family and community, it seems like there's been a decline in that way. And certainly within the Western spiritual movement of like the yoga, there's this, idea of the Om Namah Shivaya, I am that I am, this move towards feeling like we can connect with our own sense of spirituality. So to some degree that's grown without really understanding that the religions that have been there for so long, sort of like the pillars of the different religions around the world, have all basically really come from shamanic, which means direct perception through the heart, shamanic direct revelation that was written down and given to others as a path. I want to help you understand that that's what we're doing with science right now. Science is our new religion. Science is not gleaned by just perceiving the spirit. Okay, so that's different. It's looking at the mechanics. It's looking at the objects of life and the mechanics and the interplay of things, whether that's chemistry, flesh, blood, bone, right? Anything to do with anatomy and biology or botany or with physics, even on a quantum level. This is all still looking at the physical world and seeking to create greater and greater observations and collecting the data that gleans, and then ideally comparing, and through that coming up with a hypothesis, thesis, or what seems to be significant, something that is significant enough to warrant being able to say there's a high degree of correlation or what we might say cause. And then we put stock in that as if it is, as if we have like all of these million different Bibles from different authorities about what something is or isn't, or is caused by or is not caused by, or you see what I'm saying? It's the same thing as religion, because a lot of people have been calling me arrogant because of the way that I have been bringing myself to this conversation as if I can speak with confidence. I learned a long time ago that arrogance is not doing what you do well and doing it. Arrogance is saying to your higher self that you know better what you should do than it. And I have learned through great loss and suffering, and also success and beauty, that to be humble means to just say yes to that higher self and to trust. And so that's why I speak with confidence, because I don't think that everything I say is perfect or without flaw, but I know that the instrument that I have become is such that I trust what I'm being told to say, and I don't anticipate that it's going to be perfect, but I anticipate that it will be a part of the conversation in a good way. So that's my goal, is to be a part of the conversation in a good way. And, I've always thought that if you're going to say something, you might as well say it with confidence. Otherwise, why are you talking about it? So there's humility, but there's also a great deal of willingness to just trust what's coming. Yeah. And what I have to share, what wants to come now, is to help you understand what I mean by science is not real, it is a reflection. Religion is personal revelation that is extrapolated to a larger population than the self. And there are, if you look at all of the religions around the world, you will see that there are similarities. And that's because there is a universal truth and a universal set of, you could call them laws, for how the universe functions and how the mystery unfolds. And so like the Sufis that never met, like maybe a sect of Peruvian, ayahuasca, shaman community people. There might be similarities in some of the revelations that each of these groups have come from. All around the world, it's like that, because what's coming through has patterns. What comes through has pattern. And that's why, on a level of shamanic work, it's so neat, because you can actually go into the spirit realm and have experiences that teach you something that's similar to somebody else that you've never met before. And then you can meet, and then you can talk about that, and you can learn more from each other about the nature of the universe through your own direct personal experience and by understanding each other's experiences. This is what's happening in the work of shamanic practice throughout the world. It's really wonderful and fascinating. And there's been a lot of work and a lot of books around this. The challenge with the religion, the religiosity, is that there's a belief that can come behind it that says only this way is the way. And then there's fighting for position, instead of just a willingness to listen and to learn from each other's paths, and to not assert that one is the way or another way. So, science, okay, science, my good friends, is doing the same thing. It's like imagine that all of the world of physical phenomena, including viruses, and all other things that could harm you, exist as they are in their own truth and form. And then every human and every supercomputer that is in existence is looking at that truth through like a little lens, like one telescope or microscope, one part. And the whole of what it is completely beyond comprehension because it's living in a system that cannot be held constant. So all of the reflection, all of the conjecture, all of the pattern recognition is just that. It's pattern recognition of something that's much larger than anything can perceive. So it's not real. It is the collection of reflection of what is real. And we could take this collection of reflection of what's real and we could have conversations about it and we could look at it and we could learn from it. But unfortunately, what's happening right now is we are being told to just simply accept it as science is real. That's what's on the sign, friends. And so it's saying that what's real is the reflection and thereby implying that we all need to listen and give our will over to what we're being told by science is so. So we're putting science where God used to be. And we've fought for thousands of years over what God used to be, and now we're going to subject ourselves to what we're calling science, that we're raising up as a God. And we're giving our belief to it, our will to it, in ways that are completely disempowering to our own intuitive sense of wrong and right and well-being. And in any event, it's not real because the only thing that is real is the consciousness that is doing the perceiving. The only thing that is real is the consciousness that is doing the perceiving. And the phenomena that is really actually happening, that it's observing. Thoughts are like corpses. They try to capture something that is fleeting through all of form but cannot be captured because it is spirit. If you're just focusing on the mind-body complex, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss what's real. You're going to miss what is life. You're going to miss what is love. Love is not just love. Love is a secret. Well, that's all I have to talk about tonight. I'd like to go on, but let's just digest this much. And tomorrow I'll take up a bit more about what's on the signs. And I didn't talk at all about the ritual for the 4th of July, but if you're following me, everybody, get a picture of a flag or a flag, and get a picture of an eagle or like a stuffed eagle. And maybe find your favorite patriotic song and work with me to create your own Day of Independence ritual. This is what we need to do more than anything to save ourselves and the sovereignty of our country. I'll explain more later, but essentially it has to do with the actors that are behind the cabal and the actors that are behind the worldwide trafficking of children and ritualistic maiming and killing of them, and the consciousness that is behind the power structures that are seeking control and mass annihilation they have a belief in something, and they're working on the level of ritual to bring that belief and their visions that they're holding to reality. And so I've sat with this for quite some time, with a few days of solitude, to ask myself, what do people really need to understand to galvanize empowerment? And it's just time we all become shamans. It's time we all understand what it means to see with the heart and what is necessary to create ritual and how you banish demons. So we're going to banish some demons together, and we are going to cultivate a strong heart and a strengthened soul. And we're going to bring the soul force with a collective vision to one nation under God. Life, liberty, justice for all. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Justice for all. So we need to prepare. So please gather these things and help me to share. Please share this video with your friends. Please share. And please share the ritual. I am hoping that we can do it on a live feed that actually is like interactive in some ways. It is the collective field that we can generate from our hearts as we vision together the sovereignty of our souls and the sovereignty of this nation that can create a tipping point and open up a portal. I love you. Thank you for listening. Please share.